2,000 years ago, there were two well-respected and influential schools of learning and thought, the House of Hillel and the House of Shammai. They were responsible for many of the significant decisions in Jewish law that we actually still practice today. And generally, they disagreed wholeheartedly with each other's interpretations of the Torah. But they found ways to disagree with understanding that the arguments were meant to improve the Jewish people and as a pathway to bring more holiness into the world. It was, as they said, for the sake of heaven. They exemplified the type of debate that should occur between people who disagree. They were kind and gracious when they argued. They spent time learning about the opposing argument. They taught the opposing argument alongside their own. And Hillel would always teach Shammai's perspective before offering his own perspective. But there's a dark underbelly to Hillel and Shammai. There's a story told about them that should serve as a warning to us today. A story that highlights the dangers that befall a community when it fails to hold on to the civil tenets of debate. So here's a little background to the story. Over time, after Hillel and Shammai died, these two great schools of learning became lax in their interpretations of the Torah. They became lazy, and they failed to do the deep work necessary to understand the intricacies of the Torah and its wisdom. And they failed to understand and listen to each other. As a result, the disagreements between the two schools began to shift. And before long, they weren't even talking about the same central text. It was as if there were two Torahs, the Torah of Hillel and the Torah of Shammai. And eventually it all came to a head. The most authoritative source that mentions this fateful affair is from the 15th century. Rabbi Yosef Karo, the author of the Shulchan Aruch, which is a Jewish law code, he tells a troubling tale. He lists special days during the year where we are supposed to fast. And he explains that, quote, one of those days is the 9th of Adar, for on that day, the house of Hillel and the house of Shammai disagreed. Other references suggest that it was a day as wretched as the day of the golden calf. So apparently, the event that occurred on the 9th of Adar, a seemingly random day on the Jewish calendar, was as egregious an affair as the golden calf. So what happened? One day, the students from the houses of Hillel and Shammai decided it was time to reconcile their divided and disputed interpretive differences. So on the 9th day in the Jewish month of Adar, the two groups arrived at a home where they found armed men at the door. All were allowed to enter, but no one could leave until a resolution was reached. Once all the students were ushered inside, the doors closed behind them, and they conducted a roll call to determine how many people were in attendance. And a majority vote was going to be the one to decide the decision. And it became clear that there were more students from the house of Shammai. And a debate emerged unlike any of their previous debates. Already having created two Torahs, two completely different understandings of the values and priorities of the Torah and the community, these two groups of students yelled and screamed past each other, their arguments falling on deaf ears. And according to sources, at one point, with swords and spears, the students of Shammai began to mercilessly kill the students of Hillel. Many students of Hillel died that day. And so, because of what happened on that 9th of Adar, our tradition declared a fast day for all time. We are never to forget what happens when a community becomes so fractured and so divided that it begins to destroy itself. Now, our nation's Torah is the Constitution, and over which there has always been heated and respectful debate. But of late, our country has been moving towards two separate and distinct Torahs. And like the schools of Hillel and Shammai, we no longer seem to even share the same facts. And it's tearing us apart, and there's much at stake. Over the past 100 years, the world has seen the most significant expansion of freedom and political rights in history. Today, almost 60% of the world's countries are democratic. In the year 1900, democracies barely existed. And at the same time, there has also been an expansion in the number of civil wars. In 1870, there were almost none, the American Civil War being an exception. But by 1992, over 50 had taken place. There are 13 civil wars happening right now. Myanmar, Syria, Somalia, Ethiopia, Yemen, Colombia, Afghanistan, just to name a few. We tend to imagine two opposite ends of this spectrum, dictatorship and democracy. But there's a middle ground. Countries that fall in this category are called anocracies, the space between autocracy and democracy. Experts spend significant time collecting data to categorize countries and determine where a country lies on this spectrum from complete democracy to complete autocracy. So we have Norway and New Zealand and Denmark and Canada, all complete democracies. And then we find North Korea, Saudi Arabia, and Bahrain on the opposite end. In 1994, the US government asked the CIA to develop a model to predict what could lead a country to civil war. And the research indicated that it wasn't the poorest countries that were the highest risk, or the most unequal, or the most ethnically or religiously heterogeneous, or even the most repressive. It was living in a partial democracy that made citizens more likely to pick up a gun and begin to fight. As the political scientist Barbara Walter points out, the love affair with democratization that marked the 20th century and the very beginning of the 21st century is over. It ended in 2006 when the number of democracies around the world reached its peak. When a country is defined as an anocracy, somewhere between democracy and dictatorship, the trouble is the most profound. Now, I want to preface what I'm about to say by clarifying, I do not think the United States is an anocracy. I still believe that we are solidly in the list of democracies, but I am concerned about what could happen if we don't start to change course. Our nation is exhibiting various warning signs that experts believe can lead countries in the wrong direction. The appearance of factions is the most significant warning sign. Walter observes that, like the story of Hillel and Shammai students, quote, factionalized countries have identity-based political parties that are often stubborn and inflexible. Boundaries between them are rigid, leading to intense competition and even combat. It's also not surprising that the global shift away from democracy in recent decades corresponds with the rise of the internet. As she writes, charlatans, conspiracy theorists, demagogues, and anti-democratic agents who had previously been shut out of the media environment, or at least had great difficulty gaining a mass audience, suddenly gained traction. Open, unregulated social media platforms turned out to be the perfect accelerant for the conditions that lead to civil war. Not every belief, theory, or perspective belongs as a part of our American Torah. Our country has undergone an amplification of extremist minority positions on both ends. Conspiracy theories are spreading like wildfire. And let's not forget who, time and again, becomes the victim of conspiracies. It's us, the Jews. without seriously addressing today's cesspool of hate, we may yet again become the ultimate scapegoats. It's time for us to return to one Torah for our country. Our children depend on us. Our grandchildren depend on us. And the world is watching us. This year, the shofar blasts are here to remind us that we need to wake up to the message of the 9th of Adar, a message that our tradition has been crying out with for millennia. And the warning is not a call for others to change. It's a call for each one of us to change. And here's where I think we can turn to Jewish wisdom to help us self-correct. As this holiday season teaches, the ripple effects can be massive when we start by improving ourselves. So we have to begin by re-engaging in the difficult conversations, not walking away from them. So like most of the best pieces of Jewish wisdom, whether they're shared by our ancient rabbis or by our own Jewish mother, there's a passage from Pirkei Avot that is blunt and straight to the point. And it reminds us about the ways that we should carry ourselves in conversations. It says, 7 things apply to a wise person. 1, a wise person knows when to speak. 2, doesn't interrupt. 3, is brave enough to engage in the conversation. 4, stays on topic. 5, logically, not emotionally, addresses the issues at hand. 6, admits when they don't know something. And 7, a wise person admits to the truth when they hear it spoken by someone else. A fool, states the text, is someone who does none of these things. I really believe that this passage should be a bumper sticker on every car in this country. But it's the last piece of wisdom in that list that stands out to me the most. A wise person admits to the truth when they hear it spoken by someone else. Our tradition has taught us that it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to give credit to others who discover or reveal a truth. And these days, people seem to double down on their perspective even when confronted by information that negates their position. It's imperative for the benefit of our democracy to return to a common understanding of truth, to find strength in the return to one Torah for our country, to uplift the shared values that have made our nation so great. It's time for us to open up to changing our minds even just a little. Look at our universities. During the past year, we have seen how these schools of higher learning have moved far away from respectful debate. There's been way too much yelling, too much canceling, and too many safe spaces. Dartmouth is an example of a place illuminating a different path. It's developed this great model that I hope can be expanded to other schools nationwide, and it's called the Dartmouth Dialogue Project. And its mission is to strengthen a culture in which community members engage in respectful discussion across differences and feel comfortable having their views challenged. They're dedicated to expanding this programming across their institution because, as they state on their website, solving the world's most pressing challenges hinges on our ability to understand and discuss viewpoints different from our own. Seems like they've done their research into Hillel and Shammai. A wise person admits to the truth when they hear it spoken by someone else. And this work cannot be limited to our college students. Our entire country must undergo this rebuilding of relationships and trust. And there's a passage from the Tosefta. It's a Jewish oral law code that comes from the 2nd century. And it seems to be calling out a response to the 9th of Adar. It states, quote, "Make for yourself a heart of many rooms, and enter into it the words of the house of Shammai and the words of the house of Hillel, the words of those who declare a matter impure and those who declare it pure. Make for yourself a heart of many rooms. Make for yourself a heart of many rooms." If we want to rebuild trust in our fellow citizens and rebuild the trust we so desperately need for our democracy, each one of us needs to make for ourselves hearts of many rooms. As the late Rabbi David Hartman taught, become a person in whom different opinions can reside together in the very depths of your soul. Become a religious person who can live with ambiguity, who can feel religious conviction and passion without the need for simplicity and absolute certainty. The battle that occurred between Hillel and Shammai on the 9th of Adar, it may be a warning, but it does not need to be prophetic. As we enter the new year, let us open up our hearts of many rooms. Let's slowly but surely rebuild the trust necessary to engage in valuable and essential conversations with those whose views are different from our own. Let's turn our focus away from extremism and conspiracy theories and recenter ourselves as a nation. Make for yourself a heart of many rooms, a heart big enough to hold nuance, complexity, shades of gray, and most of all, a heart that lifts up the sharply contrasting but harmonious colors of the red, white, and blue. Shana Tova.